But the level of lying is just incredible. I mean, to a point where I can't even imagine it's legal. I was asking some of these lawyers, some of the top guys, I said, can they absolutely, 2 weeks before an election, go out and do an ad where every one of your policies are the exact opposite? Isn't that election interference, and isn't that fraud? And isn't there a court that can do something about that?
And to the surprise of absolutely nobody, Donald Trump is now threatening to sue people for making ads that correctly point out all the reasons that you shouldn't vote for him.
Pillar 4 is our game plan. We're drafting the regulations, the executive orders. All these things are going to be teed up so we can go in and the president can basically start signing after he or she utters, "So help me God."
How many times have you been to Mar-a-Lago?
Several, sure.
And you meet with Trump campaign people, or who do you talk to when you're there?
Well, I've met, they're not at the Mar-a-Lago per se, but yeah, I've met with Susie, and, from time to time, we have a little bit of interchange, but it's very limited with respect to Project 2025, sure.
I'm not an extremist at all. Like some on the right, severe right, came up with this Project 25, and I don't even know. I mean, some of them I know who they are, but they're very, very conservative, just like you have. They're sort of the opposite of the radical left, okay? You have the radical left and you have the radical right, and they come up with this, I don't know what the hell it is, it's Project 25. He's involved in Project, and then they read some of the things, and they are extreme. I mean, they're seriously extreme. But I don't know anything about it. I don't want to know anything about it. But what they do is misinformation and disinformation, and they keep saying, he's a threat to democracy. I'm saying, what the hell did I do for democracy? Last week, I took a bullet for democracy. What did I do against democracy? Crazy.
And of course, Donald Trump and all of his minions continue to deny that he has anything to do with Project 2025 or that he'll implement anything within it, even though the Republican agenda has always primarily been in line with Project 2025, like being against raising wages, not really being in favor of the welfare state like Social Security, wanting to get that out of there, and being anti-abortion. Things like that are pretty typical when it comes to the GOP.
I want to thank Heritage. I want to thank Madam Chairman, you. I would like to thank the entire group that you've so brilliantly put together. And I think tremendous things are going to be coming out of Heritage. I know how wealthy the people in this room are, so start shelling out to Heritage, okay? I had to say that, Kevin, I'm sorry. Shell out, because ultimately it's all about the success of our country, and that's what they want. They want our country to be great again. They want our country to be safe and successful again.
You know what? This hearing is actually the best example of what waste, fraud, and abuse looks like, because the only reason we're having this hearing is because somebody got their feelings hurt in a debate. And I don't understand why we're wasting taxpayer dollars. Next time, tell your big boy to show up and be ready to handle the woman in the room who hopefully will become the next president of the United States. Nevertheless, while we do have two amazing authors from Project 2025, which it seems like everybody got the memo, like, yes, I'm going to double down and say it's my thing, but I'm going to make sure I also say that it ain't our homeboys thing, because we know that it doesn't poll very well with the American people, because the American people are woke enough to recognize that there is nothing good in it for them. So with that being said, Ms. Perryman, I'm just curious, and this is yes or no. Is Trump's name ever mentioned in Project 2025? Yes or no? Just yes or no. I got you.
Within the document itself,
yes.
There are a number of references to the former administration.
So is Trump's name mentioned just one time?
I believe it's mentioned more.
Okay. 5 times.
I haven't counted.
Oh, okay. Well, if I told you that his name is mentioned approximately 312 times, would you have any reason to dispute that?
I don't have any reason.
Okay, thank you very much. So it's interesting that we want to try to pretend. We're not going to pretend in here. We're going to work with facts and not fiction. Mr. Hamilton, I don't want you to feel left out of this conversation. So I'm going to make sure I ask you some questions. Let me know if you're having problems answering them, because they really should be yes or no. Let's see, you're the executive director for the America First Legal, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And America First Legal is a member of Project 2025, which is dedicated to creating the playbook for the next conservative administration and what it calls the Project Pillars, correct?
We are proud contributors to Project 2025.
Okay. And are you familiar with Project 2025's mandate for leadership?
In fact, I am.
Okay. And in fact, you wrote some of the sections of this mandate related to the DOJ, correct?
Sure did.
And the mandate outlines policy priorities for the next conservative president. Is that correct?
It does.
You've done a great job. I just want to let you know. All right, so let's walk through some of the provisions of the mandate. It calls for eliminating the Department of Education, eliminating the Department of Commerce, deploying the military for the use of domestic law enforcement against protesters under the Insurrection Act of 1807. It also has the repealing of Schedule F status for thousands of federal employees to allow a president to replace career civil servants with unqualified partisan loyalists. That's probably my favorite of it. It also prohibits the FBI from combating the spread of misinformation and disinformation, like Russia and China, who are actively trying to interfere with American elections. I don't know why or how anybody can support Project 2025. And I know that there was allegedly a joke about dictators and whether or not that's funny, but in the United States of America, dictatorships are never funny, and Project 2025 is giving the playbook for authoritarianism as well as the next dictator to come in. And I know that you are doing your jobs here by making sure that hopefully some juror turns on and finds some viral moment of you spewing more of the nonsense as it relates to the president. But as practicing lawyers or licensed attorneys, I hope that we can all agree that no one gets indicted because someone says so. There takes a grand jury, and the grand jury is comprised of American citizens that sit down and review evidence, and they make the determination. And when and if Trump is convicted, it will be a jury of his peers, and it won't be the President of the United States.
I thought you were going to get to a question somewhere in that 90 seconds for Mr. Hamilton after you went after his 2025. I will point out the Inspector General just released a report that said the FBI retaliated against whistleblowers. One of the reasons we do need some changes, but there was no question there. But Mr. Hamilton, if you want to give it some kind of response, you're more than welcome to do that.
Mr. Chairman, my only response would be to say that there are a great number of policy options that have been provided to any future conservative administration through Project 2025. And it's an attempt to restore the rule of law.
Listen, at the end of the day, this race seems close. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But I do want to point out that federal election polling hasn't been worth a damn for over a decade now. The polls were wrong in 2016. They were off in 2020. There was no red wave in 2022. And of course, after the reversal of Roe v. Wade, Democrats have been overperforming the polls. And Kamala Harris and the Democrats are overperforming in early votes on a 2-to-1 margin compared to Republicans. It's looking like this election is absolutely going to be very, very high turnout. And it's looking like this is going to be yet another election where the polls really weren't all that helpful. So at the end of the day, what we all really need to do is simply show up and vote. That's all you got to do. If you're already registered to vote, send your vote in early. But if not, just go on election day. And I think Kamala Harris is going to pull this out.